Uncover the wisdom of the feminine through soulful conversations on spirituality, healing, relationships, self-leadership, sovereignty, and so much more. I'm your host, Tamar Gale, feminine embodiment facilitator, feminine arts mentor, and soul tantrika. In this podcast, my goal is to take you deeper into the world of the feminine, stepping more into your feminine pleasure, power, authentic truth, and your sovereignty. Welcome to the Feminine Codes podcast. Today, I am speaking with Bern Mendez, a neuroscience-based dating and relationship coach who has 14 years experience helping accomplished women quickly move past subconscious emotional barriers to form deeply committed relationships and partnerships. His method combines practical neuroscience, trauma-informed somatic approaches based on polyvagal theory, and insights from attachment research. Bern starts by helping clients regulate their nervous systems and identify their emotional priorities so that they can build healthy, loving relationships. Bern's YouTube channel is among the 12 most followed dating advice sources for women globally, attracting over 30 million views and 227,000 subscribers. He's been featured on CNN, Huffington Post, Redbook, Univision, Mind Body Green, and so many more places. Our conversation on healing the attraction wound, reclaiming feminine magnetism and emotional safety and love has flown from how the nervous system often chooses who we love instead of the mind, all the way to why healing in love begins with reclaiming the truth of what it feels like to fully be chosen. We also talk about why many women describe stable, emotionally available men as boring and what really is happening from a neuroscience and emotional attunement perspective and what it looks like to feel emotionally safe as a woman and how our past wounds distort what we are attracted to. So let's dive into the conversation. So today I am with Bern Mendez, and I'm so excited for this conversation. We are going to be talking about reclaiming feminine magnetism and emotional safety and love. As many of you know, magnetism for me is very important, and emotional safety and love is something I think we all need to learn, especially I did. So whenever Bern reached out about this conversation, about this topic, I was thrilled to have him on and hear his wisdom, his knowledge on this topic. He's got so much of it to share. I can't wait to dive into this, and I know that all of you are going to be super excited about this. So Bern, welcome to the Feminine Codes podcast. I am just so excited to be talking about this topic, such an important topic. How did you get into this? How did you decide that this is what you wanted to do?
Well, first off, Tamara, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you. I appreciate how you share things and that you're willing to have a nuanced conversation about this, something that we're both resonant about, which is magnetism and expression. So thanks again for having me here. And as to how I got started, my journey started early in life, not necessarily with this topic, but in the sense of figuring out what I wanted to do, which is help people in some ways break free from their own constraints or constraints that they experience through life. So I started when I was 17. I faced a period of depression. And when I found a way out that was non-traditional, I really got hooked into experiencing more of that. So growing myself, but also helping others. So I lived in Mexico City at that point. And I came back from the States from this really cool event, and I started just practicing what I've learned and found a lot of excitement in that. And a few years later, I decided to just go into it full time because it was a bit of a calling that I was shying away from. And long story short, my father died, and I just woke up to saying, I want to do this. So, as to how it turned into this specific flavor of help, I started with my YouTube channel many years ago, and I found that the listeners of my channel, not through my any intention whatsoever, were women. And I had lots of conversations with women regarding challenges in life, and this is something that came up a lot. And I used the tools that I had to start applying them into relationships and intimacy. And then I obviously had to learn a lot more along the way to make it more relevant and also to get better results for people. But that's kind of how I got started. It was organic, but now I find a lot of passion in this subject.
You touch on so many important topics, and through soulful exploration, that I think so many of us are lacking as we grow up. We make so many wrong choices, and for me, like, I've come to understand through my own experience how important the person that you choose to spend your life with, or even just choose to be in relationship with,
Yeah.
how important that is to either, if I can say it, making you or breaking you, because they will either create more damage or they can build you up. And
Yeah.
and I think so much of that has to do with childhood wounding, at least in my experience of what
Yeah.
I've seen in the world.
For sure. I think for everyone, honestly. I mean, I think it's unexplored for some people, but I think that's where it starts.
Yeah, so I think this is a very important subject for so many of us. And if we can reach the younger generations, you're like, and you know, and help them kind of learn these lessons, that would be even better. Help them
Yeah.
not have to go through what we've had to go through. So my audience is a lot of intuitive, powerful women. And what I notice is a lot of times they choose or are attracted to really unemotionally available men, or unavailable emotionally emotional
Yeah.
men. Chaotic, like
Yeah.
chaotic relationships, the bad boy type of guy. How do you see this aspect of emotional relating, of the attraction wound, so to
Yeah.
speak?
Well, so there's so many. I mean, I could talk for 5 hours on this. I'm going to be as succinct as I can while still giving an answer. I think part of it, there's two parts to this answer, right? The first one is, why does it happen? And the second one is, how do you change it? And there's three primary reasons. I recently created a video on this because it's something that comes up again and again, and it creates a lot of shame for people. I mean, you're an intelligent woman, you're beautiful, you're a high achiever, and yet you find yourself in relationships with someone who's not valuing you, or who's mistreating you in some way, or who is kind of breadcrumbing you, and find that pool of, but I can't stop connecting with them, and the other guys are boring for me, but this guy is so exciting. That's so common. So I think that, and it's not just me. I mean, I've done a little bit of research into why this works, and there's three primary reasons why this happens. The first one has to do with what we were talking about, which is your attachment style, and it has to do with how your first years of life. The first two are most important, but still, I mean, the next few years are super important in terms of what do you call, and I like to talk about this in terms of a thermostat. If your thermostat was inconsistency and mistreatment and somebody pushing you down and telling you what to do and how to do it in a way that was disrespectful, then your thermostat is set, let's say, I don't know, 50 degrees, And if you have attunement from your caregiver, and if you have respect and empathy, then maybe your thermostat is set at 70 degrees. Now, what happens when you go later in life is you're going to follow your thermostat. So you connect with a guy who is caring and giving, and the guy set at 70, you're set at 50, too boring, So you're going to be seeking that type of resonance that you experience as home, without necessarily understanding that home might be a very painful place. So that's the first thing that's happening in the background. Second to that, there's also when you get into a connection with someone where there's a lot of inconsistency. There's a theme in psychology and in other sciences that has to do with variable reinforcement, which means if you feed a mouse basically every time they touch a little pellet, the little ringer, and they get a pellet, then it's a regular reinforcement schedule. If you put a mouse in a cage and sometimes you get food, sometimes you don't, the mouse gets addicted to pulling the lever. The mouse feeds, like there's a lot of reasons biochemically why neurobiochemically why it happens. So people can get addicted to that inconsistency. It's very, very addictive. So on top of the wounding, there's an addictive pattern. And on top of that, there's a third aspect of the whole thing, which is sunk cost fallacy. Many years ago, bright research discovered that when human beings make decisions, there's a bias in decision making, which is when you invest a lot in something, even if you recognize it's a bad thing for you because you've invested a lot, you continue investing. So here you have someone who has emotional wounds that have not been worked on, who's in an addictive pattern, who already invested a lot of time. So it's like a self-fulfilling cycle. It's really hard if you're not recognizing it, that it's happening. So part of the work, what I have my clients do is first remove the shame from it, because people think that there must be something wrong in me. There's nothing wrong in you. You're training your biology to go against you. So let's just change the behavior, and how to help someone to shift and rewire the way they connect with. And it's not overnight, but you can definitely rewire the way you connect with yourself and with somebody from the opposite sex. In this case, it's men mostly for my clients. And start choosing the thing that may have felt boring before, but now you recognize as safety. And safety is kind of cool,
It's kind of what was going on in my mind as you were talking about that, is like that sense of a healthy relationship can feel boring.
Yeah.
And I've been there. I remember the time that I was like, I need to switch this bad boy pattern that I have of like craving that bad boy, the excitement and all that, and to actually
Yeah.
choose a healthier type of relationship. And when I did, it kind of felt boring. And someone had given me that wisdom. They tried to explain to me, okay, it might feel a little boring, but you just got to get used to the new way of like being in a relationship and stick with it. And it did. I found when I worked on myself and started to heal some of those patterns while I was in relationship, though, kind of like coming up against that, okay, like this is a little bit boring, like I'm so used to excitement and chaos and all of that, but just sticking it out and really coming back to love, like that really ended up helping me change that pattern. And I know that's something you talk about. That's just been my experience of what I had in relationship. But can you go a little bit more into that? Because I know so many women struggle with that moment of wanting to choose better. And it
Yeah.
probably has something to do, like our nervous systems are so used to the other.
Yeah, I think it starts with regulating your nervous system first, because it's really hard to make decisions from a place of dysregulation. Let's call it that. I mean, if you're feeling extremely anxious, if you're seeking that thrill because it's something that you're used to, seeking those that I mean, whether you're making a killing in the business, so to speak. I mean, that's exciting, creates dopamine, So if you are someone who's facing that situation where you catch yourself regularly going for the person that's not the right person, a powerful principle is to recognize that we have all been wired for many different reasons, and with social media it gets worse, for instant gratification. And there's this myth that when you connect with the right person, your eyes will meet and your heart will explode, and you'll know in that moment that it's the right person. It's the one, which I don't think exists, but there's the
Disney film.
60% of the population in the US believes the one exists. There's only one person out of 4 billion that would be the right fit for you, And it's understandable. I don't say it unkindly. It's just like in my mind, which tends to go more scientific, it just doesn't make sense. It's like when people say, are we the only planet in the universe? Like, no. We haven't found it, but I'm certain that there's several other planets with life, So I think that this is the kind of thing that when you recognize that the myth of this romantic explosion and love at first sight exists, then when you connect with someone who has good qualities but resonates as he's not the right fit or she's not the right fit, then you can slow it down. You can say, okay, I'm not going to make a rash decision right now. So do they have any glaring red flags? No, let's meet with them again. But it's not just meeting with them again. It's meeting with them again and maybe share a bit more than you shared last time. Maybe be a bit more vulnerable. Have more skin in the game. Because I find that a lot of women and my clients, when they connect with someone they're not excited about, they are not really putting themselves in it. They're like 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or both feet out, and just like almost like win me over. But when you really engage and ask better questions and put more of your heart in it, then there's this thing in life called reciprocity, which the other person will resonate with you, be more vulnerable, show up stronger for you than they would have for the other version of you. And when that guy or that person shows up with more energy and with more presence, then you'll find him more exciting and maybe more charismatic, and maybe you'll feel more attracted to him. but it's the listener and the speaker have an infinite resonance with each other. So when you understand that, then you start shifting the idea that has to happen immediately, and then you start softening, slowing down, and putting more skin in the game, asking better questions. Now, by the third date, you feel nothing more, or you feel less, you can stop. But if you feel more, you can continue. And that way, also, if you connect with someone and you've been one of those humans who's made the repeated mistake of going for a flashy object first, and your brain, and it really is your brain and biology convincing you they're the one, then almost treating that as a red flag. Like there's a lot of projection that takes place. There's a lot of chemistry taking place, which is similar to being addicted to cocaine. The same parts of your brain will activate with cocaine that they will when you connect with someone that you feel highly attracted to. So if you can remember that and then say, okay, I know that my brain is telling me that person's the one, I'm going to slow it down. I'm not going to tell myself that they're the one. I'm going to ask more questions. And then I think part of it has to do with, regardless of how free human beings are today to have sex on the first date if they want to, there's no one's going to really look down upon you. Well, some people will, but a lot less than before. Take it slower on the physical front, because the attachment is a real thing. And if you connect with the wrong person and you feel attached from the beginning, which can happen very quickly for even the smartest of human beings, then the likelihood that you'll be in I'm not going to say those words, but in a bad trip, let's say, is really high. And then by the time you realize that you're in this maybe abusive even relationship, you can't get out of it because part of you says, well, but go for the next hit, So I think it's slowing it down, slowing the physical thing a lot, and also remembering that when something feels ideal from the beginning, it could be true, but it's very possible that it's not. And only time will tell you if that hypothesis was accurate or not.
That's very wise words, very wise words. I struggled with that, to be honest. Not now, but I listened to you when I was single.
Oh, wow.
I did. I was listening to your YouTube videos, so believe me, Bern is amazing. And it really explained a lot to me, and I was able to, I had been divorced, and I chose to be celibate and single for an amount of time to kind of just focus on myself. And when I was ready to start dating again, I wanted to make sure that I was choosing wisely. And so I was listening to Bern. And
That's exciting to hear.
and so I got into a relationship that he took it very slow from his own past experience as well. He wanted to take it very slow, not the commitment part, but like just really taking time to not rush into, living together or, we're going to get married or anything like that. And so it's been a slower process in that sense of, at first it felt really dysregulating. It was like, what's going on here? I'm not used to this. I'm used to men like
He doesn't love
rushing
me.
into it. Yeah. It's like, we're getting married after 2 weeks, I'm like, so I had a very different experience with men. And so when it came to this, I was like, oh my gosh, well, maybe he doesn't like me, maybe it's not that. And it took me a while to really just feel safety in that and to appreciate why he was doing that. And so now I can really, on the other side of it, because it's been 2.5 years we've been together, I can say that what a blessing that is to really go slow, to really get to know each other and to not rush into anything. The sense of safety is really there, and it's really important. And so your words were like true, and I'm so happy that you're on because
I mean, I
because
think
I
that
did.
you're talking
I
about
took
friendship.
your word.
You're
I
creating
took your
a
advice.
friendship, right? That where you can trust the other person. If you don't really know who the person is, if you haven't gone through some challenging times and figured it out and repaired that interaction multiple times, then it's harder to find out. And even lots of experts recommend for people who like to rush things in to spend at least 2 years with someone before marrying them. Because you go through 2 full cycles of spring, summer, winter, and get a chance to see them. I mean, and again, it doesn't mean that if you do it earlier, it's not going to work, or if you wait 5 more years, it will work. It just there's a balance between rushing and also taking maybe 20 years for something that could have taken, but that's where you get a chance to decide and define what it is that you want and what's the level of intimacy you're seeking. And there's no right or wrong, because one of the things that I see so many, especially women, go through right now is that if I'm not married, then it's not a real thing. And it doesn't have to be that. There's conscious relationships that don't require the title, who are as sturdy or sturdier than a marriage. And vice versa. There's marriages that are not going to last because they didn't think it through. And also there's marriages that are amazing. So it's for you to decide what is the structure and the container you want and have the capacity to express it with someone, so you're both on the same wavelength.
Totally, totally. Is something like ways or attributes that you can suggest that women can recognize as safety, as sacred masculine energy, or vice versa, in a way that like maybe they can recognize within themselves, kind of where they're not really aligned to their truth, or where they're coming out of like choosing out of wounding instead of safety, instead of truth?
There's a few ways. I think starting with the self, I think if you recognize, a part of it has to do with figure out what's happened already, so you have a baseline into what are some of the blind spots. Obviously, getting a chance to work with someone is very helpful, because you can't read the cereal label inside the box. Sometimes it's very helpful to have someone say, hey, have you considered this or that? Just really getting a chance to understand. If you don't understand your blind spots, then you're like the Carl Jung quote. It's like you're calling it fate, but it's not fate. It's it's your own stuff. It's your subconscious mind. So once you have an idea of what some of the blind spots are and you're actively working on them, then the next phase would be to really be present with what shows up for you when you connect with someone. Whether it's excitement, whether it's fear, whether it's a sense of anxiety, frustration, whatever it is, like be very present with that. And you may not be able to do something about it right then and there necessarily if it's not something super clear. But then something I encourage my clients to do is after each date, journal. Take 10 minutes to journal what you went through, what you experienced, and then let it sit for a while. It doesn't mean everything is true. Some things might be exaggerations of your mind. Some things might be things you need to pay even closer attention to, but let it sit, come back and reread it, and then start noticing when you connect with this human being, does he listen to you? Is he curious to get to know you? That's the start, Is he validating you and telling you things that he can't possibly know? Or is he saying things that are really matched by the level of curiosity he expressed with you on the date? Is he listening to your maybes and your no's? Is he pushing harder for things that are just boundary crossings? This guy, he's trying to be persuasive with things that are a clear no for you. That would also give you a sense of somebody not being safe. We talked about presence a little bit. Like the more present he is, the more likely it is that you can gauge where he's at and where things are coming from. If you're vulnerable, does he step up more? Does he lean back? In this whole dynamic of dating, is he going to be someone who's going to be helpful in the initiation and courtship process? Typically, one of the two human beings will lead. And it's not right or wrong. There's preferences, and you can choose. Do you prefer to pursue the guy? Totally cool. If that's not your style, then can you at least express the need? I really appreciate when a guy is the one who's at the beginning. It doesn't mean for the rest of the relationship, showing up and asking those questions and asking me on dates. And he can say yes or no, but at least there's a sense that the guy has an intention behind that. Does he remember things that are important to you? You talked about your mom and something that's really meaningful, and then he asks you, again, or he forgets. Those are things that can give you a sense overall of safety. But I think the biggest degree of safety is when you're really regulated and you're in tune with yourself and you're in this synchronicity with somebody else. There's a sense of being felt, of being understood. And that's something really to take into account, because at the end of the day, it's going to be an emotional decision with some logic to back it up. So how do you feel? Now, you asked the second part of the question, which is how do I know if it's me or them? I think that's where insight from the outside, sometimes it's helpful, because it's hard for you to know, is this guy being unreasonable? Is a 30-minute reply to a text message unreasonable? And I know that sounds crazy for some people, but for some people, it's a legitimate thing. Or that might be my attachment showing up with anxiety, and I may need to lean back. Now, also, the guy's taking 2 days to respond to me, and we're dating. Is that cool? Not is it right or wrong, but do I want that? Do I want somebody who's more considerate than that? So there's lots of little ways, but overall, there's going to be a felt sense of someone caring about you, listening to you, wanting to do things in a way that are respectful to you. And they may disagree, but you don't have to have a pissing contest about the whole thing. You can disagree respectfully. And I think in terms of boundaries, that's a really big area, because most guys and most, I'm not saying all the guys and also, but for the most part, and this has been validated with a lot of clients, most guys will show up wanting to have sex earlier, or at least will express it earlier, even if the woman's still connected and wants that to happen. So if you really say no, I mean, that's an area of consideration. Will the guy delay gratification, or is the guy just into himself and is going to try to shame you for it? Which again goes back to what we spoke about. If you get attached to the wrong guy, I mean, it may take you  months to get out of it, and by that time you're eating tuna out of a can in a dark alley, and you don't even know how you got there. But that will happen. So yeah, that's about. Those are some ways for you to kind of start gauging the process and sensing who's the right person for you or not.
And I agree. I mean, again, there's no judgment on what someone chooses, but I've also realized in myself, when you talk about how the man reacts whenever you choose to wait to have sex with them or to be intimate with them in that way, I think that, I've come to realize that says a lot. And so
Yeah.
whenever you can hold off as a woman and wait and actually just get to know someone, because we as women have that, when we have sex with somebody, then we feel more connected with them most of the time. Like it's that
Yeah, for sure.
hormone that gets released, and we dive into something, even if we don't really know who the person is, we're all in, and we kind of
Yeah.
are blindsided by those red flags. And so waiting really gives us an opportunity, from my experience, of really getting to know if that person is worth sharing our body and our self with, because
Yeah.
we don't want to get attached to somebody that isn't actually for us. And I just did another interview with someone, and we were talking about this in itself, is like what happens whenever you do get into a bad relationship. As you said, you could be eating a can of tuna in a dark alley, and you're you're completely off your path, and you're trying to heal, and then it sets you back. And or they could be that great person for you that helps to build you and support you and raise you up as you do them. You see it as a
Yeah.
balancing act. Whenever you're with somebody who you're meant to be with or you're compatible with, you kind of like help each other grow and become better versions of yourself.
Yeah.
And I think men go through that as well. Men go through bad relationships, and it kind of breaks them down too. So
For sure, yeah. Men, this affects men and women. Since I work with women, that's been more of my experience. But obviously, it works both ways. There's really great men who get addicted, for lack of a better term, to someone who is really sexually compelling, and especially if they have that wounding and they haven't worked on it extensively, it just goes back to, well, I mean, it reminds me of, it's something so magical about the person. And I say, it's not magical. It's like your dad or your mom showing up again in a different phase, giving you that same experience all over again. So it's
yeah.
really important to not just know that, but also when you do choose to work with someone who understands this. So, I mean, I've heard a lot of stories in my day in terms of, I mean, I don't know, challenges that other practitioners sometimes give my clients. I've given my clients, and like it's just a re-traumatization, I mean, and just going through the same pain. So it's really important for the person you work with to understand that trauma is a real thing, and attachment theory is an actual thing, and you can't separate those two things from relationships, because that's where they show up the strongest. So it's important to kind of, I mean, it's not a defining thing in life in the sense that you can change it, but if you don't acknowledge it, then it will definitely run your life, and you won't be aware of why it's happening. You'll just think it's bad luck or bad fate, or all the guys in the world are a certain way, and it's not that. It's just that's how you're wired.
And sadly, I hear that. I read it so often. I don't hear it from women that I know, thankfully, but I do read a lot of posts on women who think that all men are bad, or think that there's definitely some healing between the masculine, the feminine that
For
needs to
sure.
be happening, because not all men and not all women are bad. Like, it's just
Yeah.
these deeper
For
woundings,
sure.
as you say. And yeah, working with someone like you who knows the depths of that, and who does understand that, and who can guide them back to finding healthy love and relationships is so important, and needed on earth right
And
now.
to what you said right now, I mean, because if somebody's listening to us right now, I want you to, I mean, if you're hearing us and you're saying, but yeah, but kind of all guys are bad. There's no judgment on my part. I completely empathize why you can say that. And I've also been present to horrific stories, from starting with child rape, that could definitely get someone to have that
Yes.
view of the world. So there's nothing wrong with if you think that way. There's just an opportunity perhaps to open up to the realization that other guys, maybe none of the guys you've met, maybe just a few of them, are different. And if you can learn to spot what the qualities are, then you're far more likely to experience that. But I mean, unfortunately, a lot of women have experienced a lot of pain from
Yes.
men. It's not just now. I mean, we're talking millennia. So we're just getting to the point in human history where more in terms of intimacy is possible, which is really exciting. On one side, we can experience more in intimacy now than we've ever been able to experience in human history for real. On the other side of that, the stakes are, I mean, that's what's possible, but most people won't get there. Most people will experience something akin of a painful, mediocre, up and down experience of intimacy. And the core of that is not because they're not capable, is because they're not aware that they need to learn certain skills to be able to summit Everest. It's like, I want to summit Everest, but I'm just going to go out and hike a couple of miles in my backyard. Like, you need a lot more than that. Not for a common relationship, but the depth that we're all seeking requires a lot more skill. And that's where the really part of my work is helping human beings eliminate the shame of this should happen naturally, therefore there's something wrong with me. Well, it shouldn't happen naturally. It's never happened in human history. There's nothing natural about what we're seeking right now. It's beautiful and it's aspiring, but it's not natural. I mean, natural is 100 years ago, he died at 43. That was the norm, Not we live together happily in emotional, sexual, intellectual intimacy for 90 years. I mean, that's not so, because that's something we're seeking something so high, then
Yes.
it's a great invitation to become a student of love, not the feeling, but the skill, a student of intimacy, a student of relationships. And it may sound boring, but I don't see another way where we can really transcend that, all the stuff that we've inherited and all the lack of knowledge that we've inherited. Like, fortunately for us, we're living in an age where there's been tremendous breakthroughs in neurobiology and in therapy and in psychology over the last even 20 years that give us a great more insight into how to shift things. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than it used to be.
It is, and that's so perfectly said. I am. I want to dive a little bit deeper into something you said, because I think this could be really helpful to women right now. You'd mentioned that if you know what to look for, if you know the qualities to look for, can you name three of those
Yeah,
qualities
for
that
sure.
they can look for? Because I'm sure there are quite a few that would be really beneficial,
Yeah.
but even just a few of them that could help them kind of know
Yeah.
even what to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so the first thing I'll say is every person is entitled to their own. These are the things that I've found as patterns that are really essential. Sometimes they seem so simple, but people avoid them. And here's I'll say a little something before I say the qualities. The reason for that is because we think we're optimized for character and values. We're optimized really for feeling. And it's hard sometimes when you connect with someone and he or she feels so resonant to your being, so attractive, that every part inside of you is wiring, and it's not your fault. There's something happening inside of you that's, wiring strongly, and leads you to believe that that person is the right person, and you're really sweeping under the rug a bunch of other things that are incompatible at best, if not completely just painful. That the rewiring, and by rewiring I mean the settling down on your nervous system consistently so it becomes the norm, is super important, because otherwise I can share the qualities, but they'll fly by you and you won't go for them. You'll still go for that primal feeling of explosion of the heart. And especially if you're a passionate human being, and especially if you haven't felt it for a while, it's something that's a real thing. So having said that, I think a few qualities that would be really important for someone to maybe optimize for would be kindness. I know it's an maybe underrated value, but kindness is super important. If you're someone who already is on a path of growth and on a path of self improvement and on a path maybe you're really good at what you do, then find someone with purpose. And that doesn't mean he needs to be a match to your financial level of success, because some guys who maybe make less money than you might be really good partners. So it's not necessarily the socioeconomic status, but it is the kind of like the purpose. Where's this guy headed, and what does he have going for him in terms of a sense of doing something beyond himself, right? You want to connect with someone who is not just all about himself, but is looking at the bigger picture, because that's the only way we'll make it out of this fun experience we're having right now in the world today. And then something else I'd say, maybe connect with someone who is self-aware. Self-awareness is one of those boring qualities that is so key and so meta in terms of someone who can go the distance. With that, I'll say humility, because if you're self-aware, if you're humble, I would say conscious, but conscious encompasses so many other things. But if I were to say one thing, well, connect with a conscious man. Someone who understands he's not perfect. He's definitely working on things. He doesn't have everything figured out, but he understands that there's a difference sometimes in the way we experience things, and also a difference in your level of risk as a woman. It's a real thing. Women, when they go to date, have a much higher risk. Name it, rape, let's start with that. Physical abuse. There's a whole series of things that make it more challenging for women. So if the guy's really pushing back on that, like a litmus test would be, I'll give you something very practical. You connect with a guy online on an app, and the guy's super excited to connect with you. He wants to see you on a date, and you say, hey, I'd love to see you, and I'd love to connect with you on video first. That's something super simple. If that gets complicated, if the guy does a lot of pushback, if he calls you out for being too weird or too needy or too uptight, then he doesn't have an ounce of understanding of what risk for women mean. And it doesn't mean you can't softly explain why you need it. You can still go that route, but if he's still pushing back, if he doesn't understand that disparity, then there's so many other things that would be unconscious on him. So that would be like, just say, no, thanks. You're not missing out on anything, I promise you. If the guy can't understand that difference in risk and do something to remove the risk from you, then he's telling you from the very beginning, there's going to be a whole host of things that will be a challenge, So you can make it practical by asking questions. You can make it practical by sharing your thoughts and really openly sensing where somebody's coming from. If somebody, as I said, they don't need to agree with you, but being open to that would be really important.
Wow, thank you. Thank you. And like I said, I watched your videos and I got I took notes. I took a lot of notes from you a couple of years ago. And so very helpful in navigating all that we go through as a woman in this world of intimacy and connection and wanting, desiring to meet someone but wanting to choose wisely. And you really, really do such a great job at explaining and getting to like the root of it all. And so I encourage every woman who watches videos, reach out to him. I'm going to share like all of his links in the show notes so that you know where to find him. And he's not hard to find at all.
BernMendez.com. That's BERNMENDZ.com. That's the easiest way. There's links to my YouTube channel. There's a quiz you can take to figure out your blind spots, but that's like the main hub, my main website.
BernMendez.com.
Yeah.
Yes, definitely check him out. And we have a couple minutes left. Do you have any last words or anything that you would like to share, or the floor is open for you? So.
Well, thank you. Well, first of all, thanks for this conversation. I really enjoyed it. What I would say is, if you're a single woman right now listening to this conversation and something's striking in you as like, this makes sense, and it's been months maybe or years that you haven't figured this out, it doesn't have to be me. I'm not saying this, just hire me, I'm the solution, because I'm not a fit for everyone. I would recommend getting some help, because that getting help can mean the difference between struggling for 10 more years or next year being in the best relationship of your life with skills that can actually help you grow. So I'd say be humble enough to ask for help, and also understand parallel to that there's nothing wrong with you. There's just some skills that can make a big difference for you. So we go from I'm broken to no, but the skills you're using right now aren't serving you. So let's just tweak those skills emotionally and logistically, and you can get what you want. Is it easy? Absolutely not. Anyone who claims that it's easy, run away from them, because it's not. But it's definitely doable. And also, specifically if you're a woman in midlife, it's even more challenging. I mean, we don't have time to go through all of that. I mean, I'm doing a big research project right now. There's about 30 variables why it's more challenging for women in midlife than for men, starting from the disparity between men and women in specific demographics. And there's a few more. So if it's already challenging, there are ways to beat the system. It's just more unlikely that it's just going to happen on its own. So learning, it could be coaching with someone, it could be therapy, it could be lots of podcasts and books. But at some point, certain things have limitations. So there's nothing like someone helping you, holding you by the hand and saying, hey, here's how we can do it. You know?
Yes, and luckily I had that. All I got was your videos, but I wish that I had done that with you, because I listened to you all the time. But I think that even though I ended up meeting an amazing man, still, I think even in the beginning stages of the dating process, like how important it is to have someone to help you through that, to understand what you're seeing, what you're feeling, as you navigate even the beginning stages of a relationship. And that's where I think come in so perfectly through
Yeah,
all of
dating
it.
can be the painful mechanism to catch a husband, or it can be a spiritual journey. And I'm much more of an advocate of being a spiritual journey, because you'll grow and open in ways that would have never happened on the solitude. I don't care how awesome the mountain is where you're meditating on your own. There's a different level of skills and a different level of something that happens when you connect with somebody else. So it's a really powerful adventure, and it's something that I highly recommend to anyone who has told herself or himself this isn't possible. It is possible. It just requires a few changes. That's all.
It is. It is possible. Yes. Bern, thank you so much for coming on today, for sharing your wisdom with us. And I look forward to diving into more of your videos and to possibly having you on again and sharing more with everyone. So thank you so much. And what a blessing.
Thank you so much. Appreciate your invitation again. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Bern.